Thanksgiving is great as long as you don't talk about anything that really matters.
Yeah.
You just talk about the weather and football. Football can be a little iffy.
Football can be iffy.
Talk about your kids.
Yeah.
How they're doing.
Yep.
And whose kids are doing the best.
I feel like the safest thing to talk about is just food.
Food.
Just food.
Stick to food.
Just stick to food.
Yeah. So Thanksgiving is coming up.
Get yourself ready. Do some research. Figure out like your safe topics because everyone's gonna want to talk about this year.
Yeah.
And all the craziness of it.
Yeah. I always like to bring up at Thanksgiving how this is really an imperial holiday that marks the genocide of indigenous peoples.
I bet that makes for really good...
It does. It always brings up a lot of great conversation.
Good feelings around the...
As you're eating, you're thinking, great. 96% of Native Americans died.
We killed them.
When they encountered Europeans.
Cool.
Great.
Can you pass the gravy, please?
Yeah, so this week I was thinking a little bit about unity. And about what it means, what is unity, how are we unified, how are we not unified. And, I think in these calls to after the election, and there's lots of calls sort of towards unity. And what does that mean?
It's a really nice feeling.
What
imagine. To imagine
unity.
So it's a good thing for politicians to say. It's beautiful.
Yeah. I think the church says it a lot too.
Yeah.
I remember back in, when the United Methodist Church was last summer. Was that last summer or maybe 9 summers ago?
9 summers ago.
Who knows? When we were like in St. Louis and had the discussion like, are we going to split? Are we not going to split?
Yeah.
And a lot of people were talking about the need for unity leading up to it.
Yeah.
Let's be unified. I think oftentimes the conversation about unity is often brought up and directed by people with immense privilege that are calling...
Oh, for sure, because they don't have to make any...
to calling everyone else, let's be unified. The bishops declaring, hey, let's be unified here.
Yeah.
While over here on the side, LGBTQ people are being oppressed, marginalized. Still, it says in the Book of Discipline that it's incompatible with Christian teaching.
Right.
And like, hey, let's be unified to this.
Yeah.
So, hey, come on over and be unified to your oppressors.
Right.
To the system, to the people that are oppressing you.
Well, because then you have to be quiet.
Just quietness.
I mean, unity, I think sometimes the idea, when people in power are calling for unity, they're calling for lack of sharpening each other. They're calling for like a lack of argument or conflict. But actually, I think that like in working towards unity, conflict is necessary. But I think a lot of times when people are like, we need to be unified, that means no conflict. But in order for there to be no conflict, when there is someone being oppressed, that person has to then be quiet about being oppressed.
So then
it's silencing.
Yeah, in some ways, right? Like maybe that is like unity. The way that we understand unity is more of a sense of lack of disagreement, maybe.
Yeah.
And maybe we have this problem, like we all mean something different by unity.
Yeah, it's sort of a concept that's can be, I think, applied broadly, but I don't think it actually is. We just sort of use it that way.
Because I wonder, can you be unified with people you deeply disagree with? And what then does that look like?
Can you be unified with your oppressor?
Can you be unified with people who are oppressing you? That's a great question. Or people whose positions and way of life is directly causing pain for you and your family.
Yeah, taking advantage.
Can you be unified to them? Right? The answer is no to that. And no one should be required to do that. No one should be asked to do that. I think that is, again, a position of privilege to where we say, hey, come be unified to us. Let's stop the squabbling. We're seeing down your points of view. I mean, a great point here is like, so are black folks, do they need to be unified with people who have racist policies, have racist outworkings?
The question, I think, is like, what is the point of unity? I know we're called to it,
Mm-hmm.
but what's the end goal of it? Is it that we aren't arguing, or is it that we start to see each other as parts of a whole and we need each other?
Mm-hmm.
And that in itself, that acknowledgement of each other's humanity, that stops the oppression.
Mm-hmm.
Because we can't continue on in that
Mm-hmm.
if we are unified with that person.
Ideally.
But
it seems like we do have this cognitive dissonance now in whatever, in our society, probably in the world. Like, we can say that we still see and value that person's life, but then we can go out and make decisions that directly harm their life, and we don't see a problem with it.
Yeah.
Like, oh, there's no problem here.
Yeah.
We just, we're just living our life.
Or we are real good for like a couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
We get something happens and we get like, we're gonna I care about you.
Yeah.
But then you only care for so long, and then you're back to your normal.
Yeah. So threat does that a lot of times. We talked about before.
Threat does.
Like, I remember 9/11 and like this huge moment, huge generational
American
defining
flags everywhere.
Everywhere,
yeah.
And everybody was behind the president. Like, President Bush's approval rating was like 98%.
Yep.
Everybody's like, yes, President Bush. Even, Democrats were like, yes, great. And then, it was like, I don't know, 3 months. Maybe that's generous. But then, like,
as soon as they started all those new airport measures, we were like, all right.
It's like, that quickly broke down.
Yeah.
And then we began to be like, hey, we all love America, but we disagree with what we're doing here.
Yeah.
We can't do it that way.
Yeah.
And this group's like, we have to do it this way. We can't do it that way. And so then we're like, okay, again. And then that led then to this state of we fundamentally disagree in what America is and what America's responsibility is in the world.
In the world, yeah.
And then, it just keeps kind of breaking down. And that's kind of what we can do with unity. It seems like we can come together when there's a threat for a period of time and like, yes, let's do this thing together. But then we're going to be like, well, we think of this and we think that and we think this and we think that. So I don't know if it's ever possible for unity to be agreement.
Yeah.
In something. And really, that's okay. I think that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we have to agree on everything.
It seems like unity always has some sort of purpose, like a threat.
Mm-hmm.
We're fighting a threat. Or a lot of times I think we see unity in mourning. We'll come out, there's a big vigil, and or something terrible will happen. It's not necessarily a threat anymore, but we all sort of feel the same way about it, so we'll come together in unity.
Mm-hmm.
I think the beauty of those moments are that we do cross lines. We do cross barriers there. And it's almost like those outside forces help us to see the humanity in one another, but it just never lasts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe that the real, Scripture talks about how blessed it is for the saints to dwell in unity. Jesus prays at the end of John, may the disciples be one as Jesus and God are one. May they be unified. And so, like, what is that? If Scripture's calling to this unity, but we know that, like, even the disciples didn't agree on, like, they weren't unified in terms of, like, their what they believed in. Because we see the Jerusalem Council, we see Paul and Peter. Like, there was all this, like, grinding all the time. Like, because I think we're always getting new information about the world, about the way the world is. And so we're always processing this new information. And that we're going to process that differently, you and me, because of our experiences, because of a whole variety of different things. And we're not going to be on the same page about all the things all the time. So then, like, what then is Jesus talking about here? May they be one. What does it mean for Christians to be one? Because we certainly aren't one right now.
Right.
We are divided all over the place in all sorts of different situations. And, like, so I wonder if, like, what you said was, if that's real unity of, like, seeing recognizing the humanity in another person. Maybe we have too lofty ideals of what unity is.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to bring it down.
Yeah.
Be like, what are we capable of? What kind of unity are we capable of here?
Yeah.
Maybe that's just recognizing the humanity in my neighbor. Mm-hmm. That they're a human. And we are together in this human experiment. Mm-hmm. And that the only way that we can make it through this thing is recognizing that about each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that it's funny how even people who are very aware of needing to see the humanity in other people, I don't always do that. Even me, like I have this thought always in my head, but then somebody will like annoy me somewhere, and I will start to see them as sort of like a two-dimensional enemy.
Yeah, that's what we do.
Yeah, but then if I imagine. Sometimes it takes something to ground me, you know, and sometimes for some reason I imagine them talking to their mom on the phone.
Okay, cool.
Because like we all have a relationship with our mother in some way, whether it's complicated or good.
Yeah.
But that is sort of like I can see maybe the child in that person when I imagine them talking to their mom or somebody that's important to them, that's older than them. Because I find myself too almost demonizing folks that are bothering me for whatever reason. And sometimes it's warranted. I mean, they're being awful.
Yeah.
But it's so important. It doesn't erase what someone else does. But it does reframe the way you see them to be able to see them as a suffering person just like you.
Yeah.
And so you can engage with them in a different way than if you saw them as this caricature of a person who's bad.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you need a little device to help you humanize people, whatever that is for you.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of times, especially like with like politicians or big famous people, that we really only see certain parts of them. And then you see a picture of them, like with their dog.
Yeah.
Or with their kids or something. Or, you know, picking up dog poop out of with the bag. It humanizes them in some way. You're like, oh, right, totally. Like, I knew they were a normal person.
Yeah.
But it helps me to be able to engage with them in this way.
Yeah. It's really hard because I think we do that immediately. We have to, like, justify our view of the world. And your view of the world may be right. It may not be right. I don't know.
Not just justify, protect our
Yeah, we have to protect our view of the world. And so then the only way to protect that is to sort of detract and dehumanize another person. And so that's the process that we do. Like, you know, for me, like coming back to the United Methodist Church about the LGBT discussion, you know, watching it from that point of view, so many people that were speaking from the floor last year, like we're no longer talking about a theological belief that we have. Right. Now we're talking about the badness of that group of people. Yeah. So we quickly move from like, here's a theology that we may hold, and the only way for us to uphold that theology is to claim that there's some deficiency in the people that are living in this
the thing that we hate.
The thing that we hate. Yes. There's a deficiency in them.
And that is dehumanizing. Going the other way.
Yes.
You saw them maybe as slightly human, and now you have to remove the humanity from them. It's this thing that our brains do all the time to protect us.
Yep.
But it is probably one of the most damaging things we've inherited from early humans.
Yeah, it's really terrible, and you see it on both sides, especially in politics. Like, you see how much the, like, you know, I mean, I'm not a Trump fan. I've publicly said that, but I, you know, like, I think it's wrong to dehumanize the people who strongly held views for Trump.
Yes.
I mean, I know a lot of those people. We're going to disagree on some things, on maybe a lot of things.
Yeah.
Or most things. But, like, I think it's wrong to dehumanize. I think it's wrong to make fun of. I think it's wrong to try to always be poking at them. In the same way, I think it's wrong for conservatives to always be demonizing progressives as socialists, as, you know, whatever the words that you use. Like, both of those things are wrong.
Yeah.
And I think that, like, what we've lost in this, I think So I don't believe we have to be unified with people that may be oppressing us or held some view, but I do believe we have to be kind to each other.
Yeah.
Like, so that to me is like the difference.
Maybe that's unity.
Maybe like we're called as followers of Jesus. Like we can stand for our position. We can even like point out your position and how in an argument like that is causing pain to a group of people. But I believe fundamentally we're still called to be kind.
Yeah.
We can say hard things to one another, but we're still called to be kind, to see each other as humans in this experiment. And recognizing, right, like there are so many forces at work around us that want to pull us apart. They want to convince us. They want us to give our money, our allegiances. Like there's so many forces. Like this is not just me in a bubble trying to figure out the way the world is. It's not that.
Yes.
You know, I mean, growing up in Appalachia, you feel like the world is against you. You feel like everybody has forgotten you.
Really?
You feel like you are in this thing alone. You have no money. You have no health care. You have no education. You got nothing. And nobody gives a darn about you. No politician. No nobody. And in the black community, you feel like nobody cares about you. Like you are in this thing and all they want to do is incarcerate you and use you and blame you. Like we are in these bubbles of trauma in our society. And we have forgotten each other.
Yeah. And
so I think it's really hard. Like when I see people, you know, a lot of times I just see people's trauma. Like I see people saying, hey, I'm for this politician and I'm just like, that's trauma speaking. Maybe it's like, you know, you seeing somebody talking to their mom of just crying. Of like, I'm hurting here.
Yeah.
And so for me, I think like, I wonder like what will it take for us to get to that point? To see each other as just really hurting people. And how do we work to, I mean, that's the thing, right? I mean, I think this is the beauty of unity, that if we can somehow find something to hold on to together, then maybe progressives could work for the benefit of farmers, like really, like for the benefit of rural communities that have been left behind.
Yeah.
That we see and like, you know, or maybe really conservative people in rural communities could look at the black community and be like, there's been injustice that's happened there, and we need to help.
That's I think why being like, I think one time we talked about crossing those lines yourself and not staying in your own bubble is so important, and how the church should be a place that we can do that, but it's not always like that. Churches can be quite segregated, but listening to people's stories, creating intentional relationships with people that are different from you is so important. And we do see that happening in our community. People who would never be together are together, sitting across from each other in the pew. But if you don't have that experience, that's the most, I mean, it can take one person talking to you for an hour for you to completely change how you feel about everything that they represent.
Yeah, totally.
Because it humanizes it. So I think like us staying in our bubbles is one of the most dangerous things we can do, because it completely prevents us from seeing the humanity on the other side.
Yeah. I mean, I can speak to that totally. You know, I grew up in a rural community, in a rural church, evangelical, very conservative. I didn't know any gay folks growing up, and so the theology made sense. Yeah. Because I didn't know anybody.
You know them, yeah.
But then, like, I moved, and I started having experiences, and I'm like, I'm starting to meet folks, you know, gay and lesbian. I'm like, wow, y'all are incredible good people. Yeah. And I'm like, wait a minute. My theology is all wrong here. Like it can't. These two things can't work. Yeah. You see all the time people like they're gay bashing folks, and then it turns out their son or daughter is gay, and they're like, well, I'm gonna change. Yeah. Because now it's like, oh.
And they repent. They repent. I mean, one a formative experience for me was becoming friends with a homeless woman who had children, and you know, I had felt like I was pretty loving towards homeless people, but I couldn't understand the difficulty until I spent some time with her and watched how she had to parent while she was homeless, and watched all the struggle that she was going through. And it even deeper changed how I saw folks throughout my day. And I really spent just several hours with her, but I think about her all the time. I think about her when I see anyone around here who needs help. I remember what she had to go through. And so I immediately am able to attach a humanity to everyone that I meet in her similar situation. Yeah. So, like, one of my life goals is just to meet as many people as I can so that I can continue to do that. But, and I feel like, honestly, with the way that our world is right now, where we have the internet, we can be friends with people across in different countries. Like, I talk to my friend Amy all the time. She lives in Germany. Like, we have opportunity, actually, to be able to meet people from all over the world. But do we use it well?
I mean, like, we have opportunity, right, on social media to engage with people that disagree with us politically.
But we don't.
But all we do is, like, you're wrong, I hate you, you're stupid. I mean, that's all we do.
And I do feel like I see a terrible waste. We have this beautiful, which really can be beautiful, technology, but then we use it for vitriol.
Yeah. Because I think we're traumatized. Like, we're all traumatized by this system. We're traumatized by this system that pushes us further and further apart. You know, I was thinking about, like, what capitalism does to us, and it just separates us from one another, and it pushes us into bubbles that where we have to grind away day after day to make a living, to just survive. And that just is traumatizing to us in so many ways. So, you know, as I think of unity, and, like, after any election, right? Not just this election, but really after any election, there is this moment where we do have a choice. How are we going to be unified in this moment? We've spoken, we've had our say as a people. And, you know, maybe this morning we need just to lower our bar to unity. Maybe it's not like we all don't need to become Democrats. We all don't need to become Republicans. We all don't have to agree with everything of Joe Biden. I mean, I liked Obama, but there were a bunch of stuff that I fundamentally did not agree with Obama on. And so, but can we have that nuance, and can we get back to this space, and as Christians too, of understanding you're human, created in the image of God. I'm a human, created in the image of God. And although we may not agree with one another, I will try to work for your benefit in the world. And we're gonna hit some boundaries there sometimes, but I'm willing to listen to you, and I'm willing to not leave your presence. I'm willing to, like, not push you away out of my life. Yeah. Even though, like, this is really hard.
Maybe that's all unity is: not having boundaries, not having exclusion. Doesn't have to mean that you're agreeing with each other, but maybe it's just having, like, open arms for sort of everybody. Yeah,
maybe. I don't know. It's a really hard question. How do we seek this unity? We're really divided. We're really ideological as a people, and so maybe it's something to think about. What does Jesus mean by being one? Maybe it just means that we recognize that we are one. Right. That we are one. No matter how we try to not be one, we're all humans, and we're connected by God. God connects us all in this web. And so recognizing that maybe is the first step to some sort of unity. What does it mean for you in this moment? What does it mean for you in your church, in your faith, in your politics? What does unity look like for you? I'd be interested to hear, because, like, I'm genuinely interested in what this looks like played out in the world, because I think we all have some work to do towards unity. But anyway, just some rambling thoughts this morning from us on this week after the election, and we're going to try to put the pieces back together as a nation. And I think these are really important conversations to be thinking about and to be had. And so, yeah, there you go. That's it. Happy Tuesday, and hope you enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy fall wherever you are. I know it's warm down here in North Carolina, but I know it's cold in other places. So good luck out there, and stay warm, stay safe, and we'll see you soon.